YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after Sunday's action in Week 17, giving you my takeaways here for those games. A lot of teams still left contending for the playoffs after winning, staying alive. A lot of teams eliminated with a loss or another team winning. So it's a pretty important week here, giving you my takeaways, mainly focusing on the more playoff-implicated games here. But a lot of interesting ones, so we'll break it down. Full NFL coverage here. Cannot wait for our content for the playoffs. So we're ranking playoff teams. And videos like that, predicting the playoffs. So cannot wait. Follow our Twitter. A lot of polls. You guys will be involved. Who you think the MVP is, all those things that will go into videos. So check out our Twitter. Link down below. Much appreciated if you can help us out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. First game was the Bills and the Falcons, 29-15 final. I mean, interesting game here. Josh Allen pretty sloppy in the passing game, pretty bad in the passing game. Kind of helped the Falcons stay back in it. He assisted the Falcons with his struggles in the passing game, but he had a fantastic day on the ground. Devin Singletary as well. I thought Singletary, it's just weird seeing the Bills able to win. Well, the passing game's not working. We're struggling. Allen turned the ball over, but we're actually able to win and win by 14 points using the run game. So that's kind of the positive there. That's a big positive. I kind of want to look ahead of the playoffs here. What does this game mean for the playoffs for the Bills? Good and bad, obviously. I mean, the bad is, because about the playoffs, what it's all about is you play the best teams in the football every week, and you have to stay consistent. You cannot slip up once. Josh Allen slipped up in this game. It's not the Falcons in the playoffs. Will they be able to beat the Titans, the Chiefs, the Colts, these teams? Do they play the Patriots in the first round? If Josh Allen slips up like this, if the passing game's not working, they don't beat the team. So that's kind of the negative thing. Can we trust the Bills to stay consistent? Positive thing is here now we prove that maybe we can implement the run. We can win with the run. Whether it's Singletary, Josh Allen had a fantastic day on the ground. That's a problem. Teams have to account for him. But bigger picture here, teams might have to game plan for the run. And they're maybe they're getting in the heads of their future opponents, because playoffs is all about the game plan. Coaches sit down and figure out what the perfect game plan is, and the better matchup / game plan wins the game in the playoffs 90% of the time here. So last year, and the Bills made it to the AFC Championship game, but their offense was a little underwhelming, and it was because compared to the regular season, it was because teams didn't really game plan for the run. We don't need to, and they didn't really run the ball. But now, very late in the season, almost playoff time, they're kind of sneaking in some solid running game in there. So maybe it makes teams think a little bit, and that could help them out. So kind of some good and bad. Yeah, again, against the Falcons, which the passing game was a little better from the Bills, and they could have put this game away a lot earlier. It did start a little messy, though. They had a fumble on a punt return and end up being a safety. So getting themselves out of that hole pretty good. Falcons just didn't have much going for them. Cordero Patterson, such a factor this year, but the Bills' stout defense able to slow it down, stop Cordero Patterson for the most part. And that's kind of been the thing the last few weeks for the Falcons. Teams just like, all right, we'll just game plan for Cordero Patterson, make the rest of them beat us, and they can't, without Calvin Ridley. And I think that's why Kyle Pitts been getting going a little more, a mixture of three things. He's a pretty good player, and the Falcons almost forcing him the ball a little, which would need to be done. Kind of let's make it a point. Let's get him the ball a little more. And then number three, teams kind of shutting down, focusing on Cordero Patterson, where it maybe opens things up for a guy like Kyle Pitts a little bit. But just not much going for the Falcons. Do they have enough if teams take away Cordero Patterson? And the answer is no. Matt Ryan still can play, still has arm talent, still a smart quarterback, but doesn't have he's declining a little bit. They don't have the offensive line. They're just missing pieces in a lot of those categories, and it's why they're now eliminated from the playoffs. So the Bills in the playoffs, that's good, because that's a playoff-worthy team, in my opinion, talented team. Can they stay consistent? But do they have a running game that teams have to worry about? Interesting stuff. Giants-Bears. The Bears won this game right off the bat. Glennon revenge game didn't go too well. Strip sack right off the bat. Gibson had a pretty good game there. I think he had 2 sacks. He had that strip sack early on. One play later, Montgomery scores. Then they get a wild interception. I think maybe one-handed. It was a nice interception there. Robert Quinn end up getting his sack. He gets the Bears franchise record. Great story, I think. Robert Quinn kind of been underwhelming when he came in the league. It's like, oh, is this guy living up to the hype? And then he starts taking off. And then it's kind of back and forth, and you wonder if he fits any kind of defense. Underwhelming last year. People doubting him a little bit. Khalil Mack missing a lot this year, so it's on Robert Quinn. And he did his job. It did it at a high level, so it's good to see that. Got another week to tally up some more sacks, maybe chase that NFL record. Gonna need a crazy game, but the Giants just don't have much going for them. It's not the end of the world. They actually hold the Bears draft pick, so they have their own, which is a pretty bad pick. Bears are starting to win right now, but the Giants will take it. Just not, Bears went with Nick Foles last week, and you think, they go Andy Dalton, are they going to blow it because they didn't start Nick Foles? They go out and win there with Nick Foles and Andy Dalton starting to turn things around. But it's not going to save Nagy's job this time. They usually turn things around late, but it would be an upset. It would be a shocker if Nagy still had his job. So that's not going to happen. Joe Judge making some interesting comments about his time with the Patriots, that he thought that staff was going to be fired. Weird stuff when it's a very good Patriots team in 2018. I think I know they were riddled with injuries. A lot of teams were. But I don't know if they've done the best job. I like the way Patrick Graham coaches that defense. I like the way he runs it. I like Patrick Graham, So what's the decision on Joe Judge? 5 weeks ago, roughly, it kind of sounded like, the Giants already made it clear. Not made it clear, but they were hinting towards he'll be back. Joe Judge, that is, next year. We'll see if that's still the case. Interesting decisions to be made. We're getting there. There's some teams we're excited about their playoffs, and there's some teams we're already looking for the offseason. We got you covered for all those things. Bears starting to win right now. It's a dominant win. Defense set them up. They didn't have to do that much offensively. It was a good win. They're not really worried about losing because they don't have it's bad. They don't have their first round pick, but some teams it's like, and fan base is like, do we really want to win right now? And I know Bears actually have draft picks, so I guess it matters in the 2nd through 7th round, but they're just trying to go out there and win football games. They're winning football games right now, so I guess there's some positivity there. The game of the week lived up to that hype of being the game of the week. Man, this was good. This was good. I'm excited about the Cincinnati Bengals, Zach Taylor, what he's done with this team. Joe Burrow playing like an MVP. Doesn't mean he's the MVP, but he's playing like that. This interesting stuff here from the Bengals because what's the most important thing in football? What were the most important things to build? Well, first you got to find a quarterback. You always got to be on the hunt for that quarterback, that special quarterback, not just an average one. And a lot of teams will go into seasons with average ones. You can't snap your finger and just find a great one. You got to be on the hunt for that quarterback. Most important thing in football. And then what do we think second is? Probably things second and third. Probably things that surround or that are in quarterback involved. Protecting the quarterback at the offensive line, building that offensive line, protect your guy, and then pass rush, getting after the quarterback. And those are, I guess it changes depending on if you look at the defensive side of things, based on what type of defense you run. If you're a team that runs a lot of man coverage, maybe the cornerback position's more important. But at the end of the day, everything that involves the quarterback, offensive line, then pass rush. It's mainly quarterback, offensive line. Most important things to build in football. Now, the Bengals, they get that special player. They draft him first overall in Joe Burrow, the right pick. He's a very talented player. And last year's a pretty good proof that looking at the Bengals, it's pretty good proof that offensive line is the next most important thing because Joe Burrow was getting killed last year. They could not protect him. He got hurt because of that. You kind of, did you jeopardize your franchise piece there? But then this year's Bengals, in a game like this, especially the last stretch of games, are they changing the whole map here? Are they changing the whole strategy? Because they still don't have the best offensive line. It's played a lot better this year, credit to their coaching staff. Offensive line coaching is a very important thing. That could be proven from here, but that's not my point. But guys go down. Riley Reef goes down. He's been playing good for them. And they're playing a little better, but they still don't have the best offensive line. But they got the best receiver trio in football. They got some star receivers that fit this offense so well, that are such a problem. We've been talking about all year for defenses to account for, handle. They can't do it. So the Bengals were proof last year that quarterback's most important, and then offensive line, and maybe it even looked like offensive line was more important than quarterback. Now this year, the Bengals are a great example of, hey, not so fast. The league is changing. quarterback is definitely still the most important. We got one in Joe Burrow, but if we get him just the best weapons possible and just create problems for these defenses that they don't have to deal with most weeks, that, are the playmakers, are the talent around the quarterback still involves the quarterback. Is that the next most important thing here? And the Bengals, they make it look like it. You look at the Bengals this year, so I like it. It's definitely an interesting talking point. It's definitely interesting, but man, I talked about it on Twitter. It felt like guys like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins you could factor in too. I mean, Tyler Boyd's been getting better, as long as he's been in the league here. But it felt like, these guys are getting better by the snap. You look at early game, Chiefs were getting pretty good pressure. They were sacking Burrow a little bit. Chris Jones getting after him. Not much time. Had to dump the ball underneath. And, I think it was mainly that. Not much time, so kind of had to either run the ball or just short passes. I think it was more of because of the pressure early on. But there's been times this year where the Bengals they're a little. The 49ers game, I wasn't thrilled. I like Zach Taylor. I like the offense. I was actually hyping him up at the end of last year. I mean, they were missing Joe Burrow. I thought they were game planning, calling games very well. So people were talking about firing of him. I was like, no, definitely not. I actually like what he's doing here. But the 49ers game, I was not thrilled. You beat the 49ers with the deep ball. You have the deep ball ability. And they took way too long to do it in that game. And that maybe was kind of a thing at some of these games. For the Bengals, even games they won, they were started a little slow, not getting the ball downfield, and it looked like that this game, but it might be just get a feel for everything. How's the Chiefs' pressure? What's make them adjust to underneath? I think that was more of this game, and then they started getting going downfield. I'll tell you what it is and why it was a bad matchup for the Chiefs. The Chiefs run a lot of man coverage, and they run a lot of cover two. Man coverage, cover two, which man coverage guys are one-on-one. Cover two, the key here is the corners. Sometimes they make it look like they're man coverage. They'll be a little physical, press at the line, and then they'll let receivers go after the flat, which is typically within 7 yards, for defenses. And the safeties have to get the receivers over the top, whether in the sideline. They have deep half, basically. And good quarterbacks, good receivers could hit that hole shot on the sideline, behind the corner, in front of the safety. That's what happened in this game. And there was a lot of man coverage. Joe Burrow understanding it's one-on-one and hitting that. But some of those times people don't talk about, they're actually in cover two a little bit. But it's really a similar idea. And they dominated the sideline. That might be a problem for the Chiefs. The defense has gotten a lot better, but here we might maybe find the problem. It's teams that could kind of pick apart man coverage and cover two. It's not just that, but yeah, teams that have the quarterback, have the receivers, have the variety of receivers, because they have to. Again, the Chiefs, they've been playing a lot better. I think they have underrated corners, guys like Snead, Ward, I think Fenton. I mean, these guys are decent players, and they're not big name guys. I think they're solid, but do you have the numbers to account for these types of receivers, especially when they thrive against what you're good at? That's the problem here. That was the mismatch problem. And we kind of figured that going into the game. It was just, but it's easier said than done, kind of getting the job done against the matchup. It's like, can the Bengals win that big game against a red-hot Chiefs team? Not only they did that, they came back and won. So very much impressed with the Bengals. It is a little weird, though, because the Bengals defense has been very, very good this year. Chiefs defense has been very good the second half of the year. And they were a little bit off their game. So maybe some things the Bengals got to work out on. They just weren't really used to seeing, this Mahomes-type offense with the speed, spreading it out, and that kind of opened things up in the run. And the Bengals didn't look like the normal selves against the run. I think that's because they just weren't focusing on it. Because, hey, we can't really play our normal defense, guys. When they go and game plan for it, they're really not going to torch us on the run. This is not a run-first team. They're missing their best back as well, which we got to try something else. I think that could be a part of it. But what do you do if you play them again? What do you do? Do you focus more on the run because they beat us in what our best game is here? Well, not really beat us, but Darrell Williams had a pretty good day. So a little bit of that. But then what do the Chiefs do next time they play the Bengals? There was some blown coverages. I think some of those people were calling it man coverage, just blown coverage, just getting torched. And there was sometimes where it was cover two. Actually, people don't realize corners had to step up and stay in the flat. And Joey Burrow and Jamar Chase. I mean, Jamar Chase is so damn good. So damn good. Where's the people now that didn't want them to take Jamar Chase? You don't see a receiver like that every day. But the Chiefs were rolling in the beginning of this game, though. Like I said, they were getting pressure on Joe Burrow. They were making him throw underneath. And, I think the Bengals, Zach Taylor a little smart with that, because there's teams that just right off the gate, and it looks pretty, do things that worked, but then teams adjust. You're still doing the same thing. You're insisting on the same thing. It doesn't really work anymore. So maybe that wasn't part of the plan, but that's what it looked like. With the Chiefs kind of just rolling, it looked easy on offense, and the Bengals finally score. But then the Chiefs go and score again, 21-7, thinking the Chiefs got this. But then the Bengals just really, really got going, just had these big plays, Jamar Chase. And there's always people and I remember in college, there's people that talk about Jamar Chase kind of pushing off a little bit. And this is a big reason why I liked him, because I talked about him out of LSU. He just, to me, it's a skill. He's a smart player where he gets his hand on a guy at the last second, but it's maybe in the category of borderline push off, but it's just really never going to get called. He's pretty sneaky with it as well. He's got to step on the corner. He's just kind of using his length to separate, but he's not really pushing off. He's just kind of keeping a distance with his arm, and he's just so smart with it. It's just something that's just really not going to get called. He's just such a smart receiver. He can do everything. You see him, they give him the ball underneath. He jukes a bunch of people out, uses his speed. He can high point the ball, contested catch. He's really good. Like, he's going to be the best receiver in the NFL. He's going to be the best receiver in the NFL. He's already up there. He's an elite prospect that you just don't see. And that was obvious even with him opting out. And they got T. Higgins going, Tyler Boyd, maybe the best slot receiver in football. It's just a dangerous team. Can they stay consistent against the best? That's kind of been the question this year for the Bengals, and they've proven that they can with a game like this. That's just going to be the question in the playoffs there. But the Chiefs, kind of let this one slip away. I know people weren't happy with the officiating. There was some debatable calls. To me, it's like, and there's people saying rigged, phantom, like. There's times where you can use those words. I think there's a lot of debatable calls where it's like, it's kind of shows that where the ref's job's a little hard. It's like, it's kind of one of the 50-50 in that range where I could be like, yeah, if it's called, I can understand the side of the refs. If it's not called, yeah, I can understand the side of the refs there. It's kind of some of those situations. And there was a crucial one late, which it was a hands to face or face mask on the defense. On Boyd, and that was the correct call, though. That one was the right call. You can see him kind of get grabbed, his helmet got turned around. So it's unfortunate you can't commit those penalties then, end up rolling, get the first down. You can roll some more clock, kick the game-winning field goal. So that was a crucial moment. It got a little scary for the Bengals there at the end, though, because they were right there, and do we score? Do we not score? They can't get in. It's fourth down, so it got a little scary for them. The Chiefs didn't even get a shot, so that was the best case for the Bengals. What if the Chiefs would have got a shot there? So very entertaining game. Two, it feels like heavyweights in the AFC. I can't wait to watch these teams in the playoffs. My takeaway to the Bengals is they got a great quarterback, they got great receivers, but are they changing how teams look at the game in multiple ways? I said in the beginning here, are they making it so teams like, we got to go attack the best weapons possible? We got a bunch of receivers. But there's other teams. I'm a Vikings fan, so I think of the Vikings. They got a great receiver, Justin Jefferson. They got a great receiver who's out right now in the Adam Thielen. But and they got maybe, people argue that it's the best receiver duo in football, but they're just running with two receivers. They rarely use that third receiver, fourth receiver, maybe a little bit more this year with Osborne. But the Bengals got these receivers, and they're using all of them. They're using all of them. They're spreading it out, making it harder. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty. It looks genius of the Bengals, but it's pretty obvious. Like, how are teams going to stop this many good receivers? And then there's other teams that got good receivers, but they're keeping it tight. One receiver over there, one receiver over there. We'll run the ball, and then we'll pass the ball, and then we'll run the ball. And they only got to count for two receivers and a tight end. And I mean, the Bengals are use them on top of it. They're spreading it out. Be smarter. Other teams got to take a page out of Zach Taylor's book here, and it's what you got to do in today's era. Titans 34-3. I was expecting this to be a pretty close game. Weather was a factor. I mean, the Titans played pretty sloppy in the weather earlier in the year, so it was kind of a question for them as well. I know the Miami Dolphins could be affected by the weather. It's not that surprising, but playoffs on the line. Titans defense. Do the Titans have the best defense in football? I guess the question right now. It's ridiculous. So the Titans could be a Super Bowl contender, and they're going to get better on offense. Their offense is dangerous. They're going to get some guys back, some guy named Derrick Henry, and so their offense could be the reason they could contend. But right now it feels like, could they be a legit Super Bowl contender because of their defense? Tennessee Titans we're talking about here. Pretty wild, pretty weird. But it's really good. It's really good. And they got stud players everywhere. Bud Dupree was such a key addition. You see him getting doubled. That's the key. Opens things up for other guys. Harold Landry been productive. I think Bud Dupree really opening up for guys. He's getting doubled. The pre-snap is like, what is this guy doing? Is he rushing from the edge? He's coming inside. What the hell is he doing? He's dropping in coverage. And then that opens things up. Harold Landry, Danico Autry, Jeffrey Simmons, who are great players themselves, playing very well. Kevin Byard's playing very well. Christian Fulton's playing extremely well. Second year. Some of these second-year corners, he's been locked down in coverage. They've been locking down tight ends, I noticed, this year as well. They use a mixture of different. Cruikshank they've been using a bit for against tight ends. So, I mean, it's looking like all the Titans who struggle at defense, they're very stout, very good at defense, but they got these variety of guys that can plug and play anywhere. They had Cunningham in the mix. They got a mixture of linebackers. They got the interior, they got the pass rush, they got the secondary right now. I know some people are a little hesitant to trust their corners, maybe in the playoff atmosphere. Yeah, what if they play a great quarterback? They haven't really seen too much of it recently. The perfect balls could beat them, maybe. But they've been dominant. This might be the best defense in football right now. The question is, will it be that good in the playoffs? If they get some help on offense, that could look pretty good. I mean, hold the Dolphins to 3. I know the Dolphins don't have the best offense in football. Hold to 3. I thought Duke Johnson was actually getting going. They were just down by so much all of a sudden. They probably could have ran the ball more earlier. It was, 17-3? Yeah, I didn't think the Dolphins maybe panicked a little bit there. I can understand it, though. But I didn't think the game was over at 17-3. There was times with the Dolphins maybe pushing the ball to midfield a little bit. I thought they could have used Duke Johnson a little more. Gaskin as well. They could have ran the ball a little more. But I think the game got out of hand in their eyes, and it did at a certain point, and they just felt like they couldn't run the ball anymore. They didn't want to waste any clock. I thought they could have focused on running the ball a little more, maybe too much on Tua there. He took a sack at one point. Flores was screaming at him on the sideline, take that sack. He missed a field goal. So the Dolphins had a pretty good – it's weird because they had that 7-game win streak, and now just like that, they're out of the playoffs from losing once. That's pretty tough. They had a good run there, maybe some promise for the future. You go and play a legit playoff top-tier team, and then – kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit. So, maybe they just weren't suited for the playoffs, even though they were pretty damn hot. I still like their defense. Again, I still like their future. Titans, they didn't really have to do much on offense. Foreman really ran real well. Dolphins, we talked about that last year. They had a playmaking defense. Playmaking defense. Great corners, great blitz, pretty good pass rush. They just could not stop the run last year. They could not stop the run. This year, all of a sudden, their defense is extremely hot, one of the best in football. They got the blitz. They got that pass coverage. And, hey, they're actually stopping the run pretty decent now. And you get a game like this, and they kind of show, Titans, even without Derrick Henry, with a guy like Deontay Foreman, and maybe the Dolphins are still a little, maybe a work in progress there in stopping the run in games like this. So, and they kind of knew they were running too. So, yeah, that's a statement win for the Titans. Good momentum one. They got that Niners game last week. Huge, a massive, because it put them in a better position. If they lost that game, are the Colts going to catch them? What kind of seed are they going to get? Get that win. You feel more comfortable. Coming to this game, you have momentum from that one. You dominate this game. Defense is looking elite. You win. The Colts lose. And the Chiefs lose. We talked about that game. Titans are sitting at the 1 seed. They control their destiny here at one more game left. Texans, they lost to the Texans last time, so it's not free. We're at the end of last year, too. That game go to overtime. I'm just remembering that now. Went to overtime where it got a little nerve-wracking maybe. Got to take care of business. You have that 1 seed, which is massive. So Titans sitting pretty right now, but got to take care of business. I feel like they have that momentum. I think they have it. Good look for them. Raiders Colts. Yeah, Raiders pull it off here. I thought definitely a winnable game for the Raiders. If Wentz couldn't go, Wentz goes, and the Raiders pull it off still. That throw by Derek Carr at the end of this game that eventually got the game-winning field goal, which originally they said it was a touchdown. I guess maybe they hit him in the cleat. but they called it back. They ended up getting a game-winning field goal. That throw by Derek Carr, that's one of the throws. That might be the throw of the year. At first glance, it may look good, may not look like a whole lot, but you watch it again. You realize the situation of first look at the situation of the Raiders. The Raiders season. This is it. Got to win to stay alive. You win this game, you'll be playing for winning in against the Chargers next week. You just look at the situation of the season. A lot of pressure on the line. And then you look at the situation of the game. They're at midfield. They're just out of field goal range. This is it. We got to get it's third down. We got to get a first down right here. We got to maybe give the ball back. And then you look at the situation of the play. Crazy pressure by the Colts. They had a good blitz call. Darius Leonard coming in his face. And then Derek Carr avoids the pressure. I think he got nicked a little bit. Avoid the pressure, steps up in the pocket, which is not easy to do for some of these quarterbacks. Derek Carr struggled at times. And kind of under pressure, ideal to throw the perfect ball. You want to have 2 feet planted on the ground, sitting in the pocket, looking pretty, feeling clean, So you're a little awkward, stepping out of the pocket, throw on the run, moving forward. Somewhat of an awkward throw. Derek Carr didn't make it look too awkward. Just a perfectly placed ball over a DB's head. And then it's a pretty good grab by Renfrow, too. I thought he scored on it, but I think we all did. And Derek Carr's had his bad moments second half of the year. Feels like every year. He had a bad one in this game. They had control. He threw just a laser directly to Darius Leonard. Not sure. Because even he had the velocity to get by anybody, but he still just threw it directly to him. But just a beautiful play. I was out of my seat on that one. Just great plays like that. Clutch when it's the season, the game is on the line. Just get me going, So that was to me, that was, people probably won't say it, but that probably was one of the throws of the year. So Derek Carr being clutch. They were clutch earlier in this game too. They scored on 4th down. It's crazy. This game was crazy because you look at things like that. You look at little things like if they don't score on 4th down, if they don't, they maybe lose the game. If he doesn't have that clutch throw to Renfrow doesn't have that clutch catch, they got to give the ball back to the Colts. Maybe it goes to overtime. Who knows what happens? The Colts are maybe gaining some momentum. It could have easily went the Colts' way. But you look at the Colts side, they had that ridiculous play. Carson Wentz maneuvering in the pocket, avoiding pressure, getting to the right side outside the pocket. The correct side. That all looked pretty. It all looked pretty when he was winding up throwing. I'm like, this guy's going to throw a ridiculous touchdown now. But he threw it right to the Raiders. 2 guys fighting over it, plops up, ends up at T.Y. Hilton's hands. So Wentz a little fortunate on that one. And that kind of changed the game after that. It kind of changed the game. I think Carr's pick was not too long after that. And it felt like, all right, Raiders probably just blew it here. The Colts are going to take the game. So, but if that didn't happen, the Raiders probably keep control. They probably win without it being a kind of a nerve-wracking type of ending here. So you kind of look at both sides here of the game. But the clutch 4th down touchdown really had Carson Wentz kind of flustered, which is interesting because the Raiders are just kind of just a strict, firm cover 3 team, nothing special. They played pretty well defensively, well-called game, I thought, from Gus Bradley. Maybe mixing it up a little bit because it's crunch time. It's playoff time. The game plan means everything right now, being unpredictable. So I thought they did a good job there. Zay Jones and Hunter Renfrow have been super clutch here. But that throw by Derek Carr, just insane. Colts let one slip away. Just got to beat the Jags there. It was looking like they were going to play the Chiefs, but was it the Chargers win? The Chargers win makes it to the Colts. Bengals in the first round. Just ridiculous games. Whether it's the Bengals or the Chiefs. That's just, it feels like maybe it's an AFC championship caliber game right there. It gets me excited about the playoffs. Raiders, they stay alive. Hey, it's weird seeing the Raiders clutch up in a pressure game away against a hot Colts team. In this moment of the year, we get it, we see it, and now they play the Chargers. Everything on the line here. Just can't wait for that game. I don't got much on this one. 50 points, 50 burger from the Patriots. What they needed to play the Jags. They got the momentum because they were starting to get cold at the wrong time of the year, right after they were hot. That's kind of the dagger too. It's like we're so hot. It's a good time of the year to get hot. But then now we got to stay hot in the most important time of the year, leading the playoffs, and they kind of blowing a little bit, But then they get the Jags, they score 50, get momentum, get Mac Jones momentum back because he's been struggling a little bit. But I thought he had a really good game. Yes, it's the Jags, but I thought he had a really good game. Wilkerson scoring 2 touchdowns, Jacoby Myers going off. Damian Harris got shooken up a little bit. Hope he's okay, but Mondre Stevenson doing well. Big game for him. They got a two-headed monster in the backfield, and they used Bolden pretty well as well. Yeah, I thought Mac Jones had a really good game. Really just seeing him step past the pressure, reading the pressure, throwing a little bit awkwardly on the move because it has to be. He had one touchdown where I was calling it a no-look, but I don't know if I want to call it that. He knew he was thrown to. I want to say that was Wilkerson on that play. He had 2 touchdowns. I want to say it was Wilkerson. Could be wrong, actually. But he saw who he's thrown to. He saw it kind of developing before it was for sure developing. And he's like, all right, I'm going to give it a look this way and then fire right back. So it was kind of like it was a little bit of a head fake. I liked it. Just throw the defense off a little bit. Good game for Mac Jones. I mean, they picked off Trevor Lawrence quite a bit. It's another tough game for Trevor Lawrence. It's I know he's a rookie, very underwhelming this year. It's kind of, I was saying it middle of the season. It's like kind of feels like he needs his hand held a little bit. Kind of feels like he is a one read guy. He can branch out of that though, but he kind of needs. I mean, this might be the most massive, most important. It sounds weird, but most important coach. I'll say staff hiring that I can remember. I'm not just talking about the Jaguars. I'm talking about in the last several years, but for the Jaguars because Trevor Lawrence has the traits. He has the tools. If you can get the right system, and just scheme things for him and just get the right offense. I would like for him to run a similar offense to what the Bengals are doing over there with Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, those receivers. They got to get the receivers, but I would like for them to do something like that. Not as complex for Trevor Lawrence. I think Joe Burrow's a little more advanced in that category, intangibles wise. But so maybe it's not the head coach. Maybe they just get just a head coach guy, like he just controls the team, or maybe it's a defensive background head coach. So it could be the offense. The offensive coordinator might be the most important thing. Just whoever's running the offense is the most important thing. What I'm looking forward to this offseason for the Jags, because that would be big. Because Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's the prototype guy. He's got the arm, he's got the talent, he's got the sneaky athleticism. He's pretty powerful, strong. He's got that going for him. That didn't disappear. It's still there. It's just gotta be a little smarter, a little late on some throws. I mean, he tried this game though. There's been too many weeks where it's like, it's a tough throw. Let's play it safe. I don't want to maybe lose confidence or throw picks, But this game he kind of went for it a little bit. Didn't really work out. Maybe waited too long to do those things. Bucks Jets are the main topic here. Is Antonio Brown. I don't know what that was. Pretty wild to see, and we do know what it was. It's Antonio Brown. So I don't know. He's just not all there right now. I don't really have too many comments on that. Everyone saw it. It's what was interesting was Brady was kind of felt bad for Antonio Brown. So that's how you kind of know maybe the guy's not all there because Brady's just all about the win. It's just he's that kind of mindset. So I would felt like Brady was like, I don't know if he would have said it out. Definitely wouldn't have said it out loud. But I thought Brady would have been like, if he doesn't want to play with us, then forget him. We're trying to win a Super Bowl here. That's what I thought he'd be. So I mean, respect to Brady, of course, and. But that kind of tells you maybe he's just not all there, which we kind of figured anyways. But that's just kind of unacceptable what he did. But to the game, I mean, it's a promise for the Jets here, even though they kind of choked a little bit. It's not that big of a deal though, the choke. Not because they're not fighting for the playoffs, because kind of fast forward to the game, they went for it on 4th down. They could have kicked the field goal. Maybe would have done them that much good. But it's just, I think it's just we got a young team. We're out of the playoffs. Let's just try some things. Let's just go for it here. It's just, I mean, they may have done it anyways, but I don't have a problem with it. Basically, I like the way they call this offense, and I like I like the future. I know a lot of other people kind of been. This might be the Jets' year. I have not been. I've been pretty accurate on the Jets. I've not been that person, and I'm not going to make any prediction for next year right now. I just think it's pretty promising. I think they might be able to be a solid football team next year because I like the coaching staff. They got young players that'll develop. They get a guy like Carl Lawson back, others back. They have an offseason with a pretty good draft capital because remember they have the Seahawks pick as well. They can do some damage in free agency. I think the culture is changing a little bit there. Again, the staff may help in that category. We got to see what they do. They got to go and do it, You can't just say they can be a good football team next year. I think it's pretty promising. All right. Buccaneers start a little slow in this one. They are missing a lot of guys. Brady had a bad pick earlier in this game. Just a little slow. I know Ronald Jones got hurt, so that affected them. So I don't like that they were in that situation because the Bucs, they got hot at this time last year. They took care of business, and that kind of rolled into the playoffs. So I didn't really like the sloppiness there. Again, they're missing some guys that they'll get back. Mike Evans is playing good. But they end up coming back and they get the job done. They had maybe a little bit of luck and a little help from the Jets there on their side at the end. But that last drive, ridiculous. That last ball by Tom Brady, ridiculous. And there's a lot of people that just appreciate the throw, accurate throw, big play, clutch play. And yes, you have to appreciate that. But what gets me is what some people don't realize is that Brady knew exactly what coverage the Jets were going to be in before that play was snapped. I don't know who called the play. I don't know if he adjusted to that play. I really feel like it was Brady, but they ran the perfect play for that situation as well. He knew they were in cover 2 before that ball was snapped. He knew that the corner was going to stay in the flat. He had to drop it right there to that receiver. There's going to be a tiny window that not too many guys can make that throw, and he did it. He went and did it, and that's it. That's a big win to keep maybe a good seed there for the Buccaneers. So a little sloppy early in this one, but yeah, getting a comeback win like that and staying in that winning atmosphere, good I guess good atmosphere, good momentum there moving forward in the playoffs. Maybe a little distracted by Antonio Brown in that game, come back and win. They'll take it. Eagles, Washington. It's kind of the story of Washington. Even when they were on that streak, I still had a little bit of doubts in them. And what I kept saying was they're outplaying teams for all the game or most of the game, and they're not able to put them away. They're kind of letting them back in the game. And even when they were winning, and I kind of question crunch time, almost playoff time, and they got to win games. They're probably going to let some teams back in it. And that's kind of the story of this game. They got 16 points fairly early in this game. They have control of this game, and the Eagles are a team that kind of start slow too. So Washington taking advantage of that, but they need to further take advantage of that. And just not able to do it. Just stuck at 16. Eagles heat up too. They start to heat up. Boston Scott making some clutch plays. Hurts playing a little better on the stretch here. Defense, give credit. The defense played out of their mind second half of the year. Eagles defense, especially without Brandon Graham, did we expect them to be this solid? So credit to them as well. Adjustments they make. They haven't been thrilled maybe with the coaching staff, maybe the offense coaching staff here, but adjustments they make in the second half moving forward. Washington had a shot at the end, a little bit of contact in that play. I like the no call. I think it's just kind of both guys' faults making the contact, but where you can't argue it is it affected the play big time. Would it have been picked off? Would it have been a catch? Would it have been, would they have another play? Well, would have flagged. They would have. So could understand some frustration, but if it's me, I probably don't make that call. But if they do make the call, I'm not going to complain about it. It's just kind of one of those. But yeah, the Eagles clutch up in this one. Washington kind of let the season slip away. They did have it tough. They got ripped with Rono the last time they played the Eagles, so that was pretty tough. Chase Young going down. They did get hot though at one point, but just not being able to put teams away, and that's a problem. I think that's a problem with the play calling, problem with the coaching staff, kind of understanding how do we put teams away, how do we do what's working or not stick to the same thing. And there's really no right answer there. It's just, there is a right answer with it's situational stuff. It's with what's happening in that game. But the coaching staff might have a legitimate excuse, though, because do they have it? They didn't know. In this game, they didn't have Antonio Gibson. They didn't have J.D. McKissick. They got Taylor Heineke playing quarterback, and people were getting hyped on him at some point. And it's a good underdog story. He can be clutch at times. He's a fun player to watch, but he's just not it. It's not what you're looking for there. And again, he's solid, but he's just not. It's not what you're looking. You want a lot better. And they have Terry McLaurin, the only receiver teams are focusing on, getting doubled, and you got to try to help out and make other guys win games. And no Logan Thomas. They don't really have the talent there, so it kind of makes sense. They just didn't have the talent, but they got to put teams away. That kind of falls on the staff a little bit as well. Eagles are going to the playoffs. Packers beat the Vikings, which was expected, so that'll help. That secured them in a playoff spot. So that's actually ended up being, it was a little bit disastrous early on. People were already calling for Sirianni at a very early stage, and hey, they're in the playoffs right now. It's one of those, a lot of teams that people believe in. It feels like the most balanced playoff field that we've ever had, actually. Pretty even teams, but maybe the Eagles are a team that are kind of under the radar. People aren't buying in the Eagles, I should say. They could be a little sneaky. I like the way their defense is playing right now. Rams and Ravens. Man. The Ravens kind of turning into the Vikings here. They got a bunch of these close, heartbreaking losses that could have changed the season. So, they were pretty depleted, obviously, as well. So they have a legitimate excuse. But they have these that they maybe should have won, and they'd be in the playoffs. So it's pretty tough. That's pretty tough. They played a pretty good game. They've been playing pretty good games, maybe minus the Bengals games. I thought Don Martindale, the Ravens defensive coordinator, who's a great defensive coordinator, could be a head coaching candidate. I thought he did a great job in this game, mixing things up, because we kind of know the Ravens' identity. They're going to blitz. They're going to run cover 0, man coverage. I think they did a good job mixing it up. I thought a lot of the defense coordinator is predicting, because your teams are lining up. You're out there predicting what the offense is about to do, and you got to call play for your defense. I thought he did a really good job. You knew the Rams game is throw the ball downfield, air it out. I thought he did a good job predicting when they were going to do that, predicting when they weren't going to do that, because the Ravens typically don't have the safeties downfield, but they did in the right moments. And then the Stafford started going in. I mean, he ended up getting balls downfield. It was going to happen. It was going to happen. But they weren't able to do it. The Bengals were able to take advantage of it because it's what they do, and what the Ravens were right now with their current team, who's hurt, the way they run things, they're able to take advantage. The Rams weren't really most of this game, but they really got things going. I thought Odell was super clutch. But kind of going back, I thought the Ravens were kind of predicting things well. See Chuck Clark get a pick six underneath. They knew they were trying to go underneath there, and they had him in the back end, which you don't really see a whole lot of, and he gets a pick deep downfield as well. It was just, the Rams were going to make plays. They really should have made more plays. So I thought the Ravens, I thought Martindale coached a very good game. They clutched up. Chuck Clark had a great game. Tyus Bowser, underrated player, been playing very well, played another good game there. Rams clutched up, though. Very close to losing this game. Stafford being sloppy. Them kind of going away from the run too easy, or insisting on drawing up specific plays for Cooper Kupp. Stafford, which works, but Stafford staring guys down. That can't happen in the playoffs when you play the bet. It just can't. You're going to lose. But Rams kind of have that wild card, too. Could they kind of implement some of that, kind of their old offense? I think they can at any time and throw some teams off. So they have some of that going from. I think they could be a running team at any given time. They got Michelle. They got Darrell Henderson's very good. They're saving for the playoffs. And Cam Akers is coming back, who's a very solid running back. So you can play both sides of the Rams here. Just Stafford being sloppy. It's an inconsistent team. That just can't happen. You cannot be inconsistent at all in the playoffs. But you could be a little sneaky here. They could be a run-first team and just throw somebody off. Like, what is this? They're just pounding the ball all over us. They could do that. And implement some play action. Just really throw teams off. So there's some good and bad here for the Rams. Just tough year for the Ravens. Tough. Unfortunate. Broncos, Chargers. Yeah, not much from this one. The Broncos missing, they have Drew Lock in there. He got hurt at one point, came back in. Missing players. Everything downhill. So that'd be the reason why it was pretty, I guess, somewhat easy for the Chargers, and when the Broncos are underwhelming. But credit to the Chargers here. I mean, able to, you play a team a second time around. They beat you pretty good last time. It was close some of the game, but the Broncos completely outplayed them last time. But being able to figure out kind of what went wrong, adjust, I think that's a pretty good look for the playoffs if they make it. They got a big game against the Raiders this week, a rival game. You got to win and get in here, but I think the ability to adjust to it was supposed to be a mismatch, and that defense gave problems. And those corners were pretty locked down again. Not a whole bunch of separation, some big plays here and there. Mike Williams making a big play. But able to kind of dominate this game without doing a whole lot. I think Brandon Staley called a pretty good game defensively. Again, they're playing Drew Lock. I thought he called a pretty good game, I should say, defensively. Great defensive mind, obviously, but and that because we know the Chargers can't really stop the run. I want to see what the Broncos ran for here. We know they have they. I want to see the numbers specifically. Not that change it doesn't change what I'm about to say at all, but just pretty curious. They didn't run the ball a whole lot. 27 for 83. Yeah, so something I noticed in this game, you could still run on the Chargers. They still had some good runs, but when they were predicting runs in crucial situations to force passing situations, or if it's third and short, force punt, I thought Staley was doing a good job predicting the run, maybe the type of where it was going, and they were kind of blowing it up. Guys were getting in the backfield, so I thought that stood out to me. which, that type of thing shows up in the playoffs. That's key for the playoffs. A defensive coach like that. I think a guy like Jerry Tillery's been playing a little better, something I noticed. But yeah, the Chargers went out and did what they needed to do. I like that they're able to adjust and better themselves in a second time round game like this, because that's kind of their weakness, defenses like this in the playoffs. So could they better themselves and be like, hey, we played this defense, we struggle against this, even if it's not the same exact team, we know what to do now. Maybe we're just getting going, we're just warming up, we're breaking that. I don't want to say the rust, but we're knocking all that off. That what didn't work, maybe. Texans 49ers. I think a lot closer. I think the score showed Niners got going late. Maybe Trey Lance got going. I think making correct reads late. That's what I liked. He didn't have the best game passing, but I think correct reads later, using his legs, kind of making the defense fear that a little bit. Elijah Mitchell really got going. Ayuk was kind of going early, and then Debo and Elijah Mitchell making the big plays late. Defense played a great game. A little scary for a little bit in this one if you're 49ers fan. You need to win this game, but they end up getting the job done. I guess a controversial call in this game. I don't think it would have changed anything. It definitely would have changed the final score. It definitely affected the game. I still think, my point is I'm still predicting the 49ers would have won. But controversial call was interception by Davis Mills, and the Texans go and strip that ball and get the fumble. And then the refs huddle up and then make a call and decide forward progress to stop, give the Niners the ball. And I don't like that part of the game. And all of a sudden they implemented that in college football as well. It kind of came out of nowhere a couple years ago in the NFL. College football, if you watch that Tennessee-Purdue game, they made a costly one of those calls there. Whistles late. The whistle didn't matter, apparently. Whistle wasn't blown. It don't matter. That's kind of the same thing in the NFL. And people will say, I'm not saying maybe this one specifically was sketchy, or maybe I am. But people will say, oh, that pass interference was phantom. It's rigged. It's sketchy. Refs are sketchy. Or that roughing the passer. These roughing the passer calls are ridiculous. They are ridiculous. It's the rules, though. I don't know if those are sketchy or make the game look rigged. The taunting, it is what it is. It's a stupid rule. It's the rule. Players go and taunt like idiots. Then people say the refs are phantom. They're rigging it. No, absolutely not. There's debatable calls like pass interference where you can see it getting called either way. Not phantom, not rigged calls. When all of a sudden, I'm not focusing on just this game. It's kind of been a thing last year. It's a thing. It was a thing last year. We actually saw it in a playoff game, which I hope it doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen this year. But we saw it in a Saints-Bears game in the playoffs last year. But it's a thing this year as well across the NFL. Again, the forward progress thing, and those are the calls. I'm going to defend the refs and say, understand why they called it, even if I don't agree with it. Not this specific moment, but other things where people are saying it's rigged. But in a moment like this, I'm not saying it's rigged, but those are a little sketchy. Those are a little sketchy because there was no whistle, and they just get together and decide, like, oh, God, we're going to call forward progress. Like, what makes you kind of think that, even though it wasn't, and that's been a problem across the league here. So I hope that doesn't pop up in the NFL playoffs here. And they need to fix that rule, to tweak it up a little bit on what it should be. I don't know what it says in the rules, if they can do that, but the whistle should determine. If the whistle blew, that's forward progress. The play's dead. You stop the game. If the whistle didn't blow, guys played to the whistle. The ball got stripped. It's the other team. They covered the ball, Maybe we should make it so you can review whistles. I think we get a more accurate game, I think we get a more accurate what happened. So it's either you blew the whistle or you did it. So it really shouldn't be a meeting like, hey, you think his forward progress was stopped? And again, that's why maybe it's not sketchy, but it's like guys are a little confused and they're talking like, and guys will have different opinions. So there's maybe some arguments from the refs. Some didn't agree. And that, to me, that's kind of a problem. But the 49ers outplayed the Texans. They gave problems to Davis Mills. They played very good defense. And they clutched up in the end. Got again, Lance making correct reads, and Elijah Mitchell, Ayuk, Debo playing the good games there. So good games. So Niners stay alive. They got to win. They win. They have had success with the Rams. The Rams are no joke. It's not a free win. And the Saints have a shot as well. They play the Falcons. Cardinals, Cowboys. Very, very end up an entertaining game. Cowboys started a little slow. They come back. I talked about it going into this game. That maybe the matchup sides the Cardinals because they like playing against man coverage. And the Cowboys run more man coverage than anybody. They ran over 50% this year, which is pretty ridiculous. The Cardinals love that because Kyler Murray can buy time and no man can cover in man coverage forever. It's just one-on-one. Somebody's bound to be open. I think when you have a fast offense, whether it's tempo or actual quickness or speed, with the guy's abilities, that's always makes sense on why they like playing against man coverage. So I think the Cardinals, I have the great game plan from Kingsbury. Let's run Kyler Murray. Let's make sure we get him out in space. We know the man coverage. Let's get the balls down the sideline. I think he called a pretty good game. I thought Kyler Murray executed. He's been struggling a little bit, maybe here and there, but I thought he was running. They didn't have much of a run game, but they had it from Kyler Murray. But run the ball at Edmonds. They could have used a guy like James Conner in this game, but they weren't too focused on the run there. They were focused on a Kyler Murray type of run. I think they took advantage of, I think, because it's a great Cowboys team still. So I know you have the matchup favor, but you got to have the game plan. You got to go and execute. So they did those things. I think they could have been better with James Conner, obviously as well in a game like this because they didn't have much run game going. Antoine Wesley making some plays. He's getting better by the week here. Really gets up, can high point the ball. I think they took advantage of having that matchup, going against the man coverage. And they're good against man coverage, and they're good playing away, so we'll see which games they have home and away in the playoff. Right now, I think it's matched up with these two teams would play again in Dallas in a rematch in the playoffs. It might change, obviously, with Week 18, but that's pretty interesting. Defensively, Cardinals played a great game defensively. Cowboys started very, very slow, and that's ultimately what ended up winning the game for the Cardinals because the Cowboys started slow, and they ended up coming back. What if they would have started normal? They probably would have won the game. So Cardinals defense, they stopped the run. They shut down the run early. I think getting that lead made the Cowboys play callers panic, which was my point weeks ago. We'll talk about that in a second. But I thought Isaiah Simmons, great game. That forced fumble was huge. If it wasn't that forced fumble, maybe they don't win. Maybe it's tied or whatever. Budda Baker was everywhere. It's a really good game of the Cardinals defense. And they execute on those big moments. There's like the big play, the big plays of the game. They haven't been executing recently. They did in this game. In that last drive, extending the drive. And people, did Chase Edmonds fumble. I know it's a big thing. Live, I'm like, no, he was definitely down. But I saw some replays. I'm like, oh, man, he may have fumbled. Tough to tell. I just wish the refs stopped to check to make sure you just get the right call. So that's a little tough. Either the Cardinals did enough to win this game. Either they deserved to win this game. Cowboys started too slow. I thought the Cardinals did enough on both sides of the ball where they maybe slightly outplayed the Cowboys. They outplayed them by a lot early in the game. So I thought the Cardinals were deserving. But, could they have reviewed that play and then gave the Cowboys the ball? And maybe the game's different. Maybe. In the delay of game, before that, people were complaining about, or was it that play? That's kind of just how it is. They just rarely call that delay of game. I think they should fix that, though. I think if it's zero, it's zero. I think Mike Tirico was actually touching on that in the Sunday night game. I actually agree with Tirico that if it's zero, it's zero. Make the call. It's supposed to be the call, But I don't have too much of a problem in this game because they just don't call it. I think if we start a new year, tell the refs, hey, it's zero, let's call it. I think the NFL is like, tie goes the runner type of thing, even though I don't know if it's really a tie. Feels like they're trying to help the quarterbacks any ways they can, but is what it is. Cowboys got to play better early in this game. But I talked about it earlier in the year where they kind of were inconsistent on offense. I think there's a little bit of panic to their play calling. Kellen Moore, there's a little bit of panic. What I mean by that, it's like if things aren't working, if they're getting outplayed, Cardinals up 10-0 pretty early, which is pass, just keep passing. And the run wasn't really working. Zeke at 1.89 yards per carry, something like that, top of my head. Run wasn't really working, but you just abandon it. That's two things. They abandon things too early, but they don't really abandon the pass ever, which is never really not working, I don't think. But exactly. But I think they panic a little too early, though. I think run's not working. We're losing. We got to come back. We got to pass every play. Relax. You can run on the Cardinals. You're a pretty good running team. You have the offensive line. Figure it out. make adjustments at halftime. But like, no, their adjustments were, and they would still randomly run at weird times. So I wasn't thrilled with the, I was going to say game plan. Maybe not the game plan, but situational play calling, adjustments. Kellen Moore, that's where I don't like him. That's where I don't like, and I'm not saying I don't like him, but that's where he needs to work on some things. They could have ran the ball more. Get the ball to Tony Pollard. Run the ball to Tony Pollard. We have 3 carries. Get him the ball. Maybe they think they're going to play the Cardinals again in the playoffs. They're very confident. I mean, now that they lost, it looks like they are. And they want to save some things. Maybe. I don't think so. But if they play the Cardinals again, I would imagine they would pound the football a lot. You would think. I don't know. And the Cardinals stopped it when they tried to, so maybe they would stop it again. But I think it'd be just a different type or different situation. Maybe they would. I don't know. It was interesting. I wasn't a fan of that. Again, Cowboys, great defense. One of the best defenses in football the last several weeks. The Cardinals thrive against man coverage. We talked about it. So, and the Cowboys, I understand you got to stick with what your game is. You got to stick at what you know. You got to stick at what's working. But they're becoming predictable at it, especially when playing good teams good at playing man coverage. When you get to the playoffs, you're playing the best quarterbacks in football. You got to come across Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. You got to come across those guys. You put it on a platter for them. I'm going to line up there, and I'm going to see you're in man coverage, and I'm going to know that I'm going to do my homework. I know that you're running man coverage. I mean, the Patriots are known as the man coverage team. They're running man coverage 8% more snaps than the, give or take, I think maybe almost closer to 9 than the Patriots, over 50%. So it's become predictable. There's such a thing as predictable defense. So game like this, that last drive, you got to mix it up. Maybe are they capable of mixing it up? Maybe they've got man coverage guys. So they got to mix it up, especially that's where my doubt is with the Cowboys. Actually, as good as their defense could be, the turnovers they can create, they can win only on defense because they have those guys. They have the formula. They have the pass rushers. They have the playmakers, the guys that get their hands on the ball, Javon Diggs, etc. But if you're becoming predictable, it's not too good. But if they can change it up, they might be sitting pretty, because if they think they can run whatever, cover 2, cover 3, usually you can run cover 2 if you run man coverage. But if they have that ability, they can really throw some teams off in the playoffs, because they're going to be like, this team runs man. That's all they know how to do. They run it in historic amounts. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's ridiculous. That's what they're going to do. And then you just start throwing some trap coverages at them. Ooh, it can really throw them off. So which side do you want to believe here? Or are you going to believe? So, I think the Cowboys lost because of coaching in this game. Dak can't fumble. Effort play, great play by Isaiah Simmons. They got to run better. Maybe a little too much hesitation from Zeke. Not too much to go. Gallup got hurt in this play, so it's tough. Sure, there's always more room for better execution, but I was not thrilled with the play calling on either side of the ball with the Cowboys. If they played again, it would be interesting, because then the Cowboys would change it up a little bit, throw the Cardinals off, run the ball more, not start as slow. But the Cardinals, again, they weren't effective with the running back. Having James Conner, it's like bruiser type back that has expanded his game. That's something different. So I think the game, if they played again, will be way different on both sides here, in a good way for both sides. So I would like to see a rematch, because that'd be fun, just because those storylines there, the reasons. So, much needed win from the Cardinals. Momentum. They were starting to lose it. Pick me up game for Kyler Murray, maybe. They want to play away, apparently, and they want to play the man coverage teams. That's what they want. The question is, how will they be against the teams they don't match up that well against? And they don't have to play the Colts in the playoffs, but teams like that, how will they match up against, again, some of those teams, playing the Rams a third time, but the teams like the Bucs, I'm mainly looking at teams like that. How would they do it? It's not, the Cowboys might even be better, but in terms of the matchup, in terms of how they play, it's always different. Panthers Saints, this game pretty much went as we had expected. The Saints started a little slower. I guess I shouldn't say it went as expected. In terms of the score, and the Saints pulling away at the end, creating a turnover to end the game. Things like that kind of went, and where the strengths and weaknesses for the most part would be. But yeah, I guess maybe where we didn't expect, the Saints started pretty slow, which isn't that surprising. Felt like for a little bit, could the Panthers win this game? Kind of felt like that. But another thing, a big thing, I thought Taysom Hill would run pretty damn well in this game. Wasn't that effective. Not that he didn't run well it just wasn't that effective, and they still won. That's kind of the good thing. But I thought, Taysom Hill, I thought he threw actually pretty well. Maybe the stats won't show it, that he didn't throw a lot of times. He didn't throw, it's not nowhere near eye-popping numbers, but I thought he made some throws when he needed to. Timing-wise, I thought a little better than maybe they expect Taysom Hill. I think that was pretty big. I mean, Kamara didn't do too much, and they showed up in the right drives. I thought, Kamara didn't do too much, but he had a 30-yard run in a big moment, and then he catches a touchdown for a pass. Whatever, I don't know what I just came out of my mouth, but he caught a ball and scored. It was a touchdown. A crucial drive, a massive drive, and it's kind of Kamara there on 2 plays. Callaway had a couple big catches. We had a ridiculous one over the middle of the field. Cam Jordan, is he getting better as the season goes on? Old man Jordan is not really that old, but it's like a veteran guy. I guess you can always say a veteran guy you kind of expect to be, what you're going to get from him, But I guess at the same time, you can argue the other side. Veteran guy that know the playoffs on the line. It's crunch time of the season. This is it. This is the time. He probably knows the feeling, and then he starts going off more and more every week. So you can kind of argue both sides there. I think he had a monster game. The defense has been flying around the field, creating turnovers, what they do. Panthers, just not enough. They got Darnold at quarterback. They don't got McCaffrey. They got DJ Moore. They just don't have enough. It's a team that with the quarterback, maybe they can have enough. They just didn't have enough here. So Saints stay alive. Must win. They pull it off. Better play good in the second half to solidify this one, and they stay alive. They'll play the Falcons, who are out now. They'll play them next week. They had trouble with them last time. They beat them, and the 49ers lose to the Rams. I think that's pretty realistic. The Saints are in, even with kind of the mess they had this year. Pretty wild. So something to watch. Lions, Seahawks. Seahawks scored 51. I said on Twitter, where was the Seahawks offense all season? And I knew it was going to happen. I got a million comments saying they're playing the Lions. I knew it was going to happen. Playing the Lions, and they are playing the Lions. Lions aren't too good of a football team. I do think they're playing better down the stretch, especially their defense. But you scored 51 freaking points. The Seahawks couldn't really move the ball against the Bears. The Bears got a decent defense, but these teams, offense was better, and they changed the play calls. They kind of just went all out, let it loose, like whatever, So is this a bad thing for maybe the fans that just wanted a change? I don't know how much change they wanted though, because maybe a game like this is like, all right, we're still very capable. Now we know what we need to do next year. Let's kind of retool it. Some people are talking about blowing it up, trying to get draft picks back. Things like that. So if you're the believer, or if you wanted to do those things, maybe it's not a great game. I've seen teams have these moments and just like decide to stay the same because of it. I don't think they'll try to stay exactly the same. They'll know it needs to change, but they've been a little conservative in terms of off seasons recently. They didn't used to be, but recently. So could this be a bad thing? I mean, it was an impressive outing from the offense. Rashad Penny, very talented. I mean, the guy can run. It's just about staying healthy. But what are the Seahawks do with him? This offseason if he's upcoming free agent here. DK had a good game. Classic Russ. Was that a fourth down play? I can't remember if it was fourth down, but getting pressure, just knew exactly where the ball and when it needed to be thrown, where it needed to be placed, and just falls right in the DK. I think we used to see that a lot of times from Russ. So classic there. Monroe St. Brown's been tearing it up. We knew that was a steal of a pick for the Lions. If they had Jared Goff in this game, maybe even more of a shootout. That's really all I got. Not a lot in this game on the line here, I should say. Sunday night kind of went to plan. No Kirk Cousins. Sean Mannion in. Sean Mannion's not too good. Makes Kirk Cousins look better. Maybe people stop ripping him a little more because they definitely needed him in this game. They just didn't have much on offense. But I wasn't really. I mean, the Vikings weren't going to win. If Kirk Cousins played, I'm not saying they would have won. They could have competed. But even with Sean Mannion, I didn't think there was any way the Vikings were going to win. But the coaching staff they shouldn't have the same views as me and the fans here. But it felt like they had the same views. It was kind of just, I don't know, maybe it was a lot of Mannion just insisting on the check down, but just staring at the shortest route. But there was just no shots down the field. I mean, your playoff hopes are on the line. I would imagine they would want to make the playoffs. I think there was a lot of conservative play. They didn't want to take shots. They didn't want to drain Mannion's confidence. They just were very, 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 very afraid of having him throw an interception, even when they're getting their ass beat. You're playing Aaron Rodgers. He can score at any time. Your playoffs hopes are on the line. You got to win. You would think let it all loose. Let's go do it. Let's take shots. Like none of that. So, and then all of a sudden, since the passing game wasn't working, they started run the ball on first, run the ball on second, let's throw on third. I talked about this on Twitter. It actually has a reverse effect. You don't want your quarterback to throw. You don't trust them to throw. You want to try to run the ball. So let's make it easier on the quarterback, right? By just running a little bit more. And this didn't last long. They started throwing every play eventually. This was kind of early, maybe second quarter, but it's actually the opposite, by running and then only throwing when it's obvious passing situation, third down with defenses lit. That's what they want you. That's what they want. The perfect situation. They're trying to get you in that situation, and you put it on a platter for them. So obvious pass situation, you can rush the passer, you can blitz if you want to. You can, you don't have to worry about stopping the run. There's nobody defending the run in that play. Nobody on those plays. It actually makes it harder on the quarterback. So you're doing less, having him do less, but you actually need him to do more than. Not that, man, if the Vikings did a better job, he's a better quarterback all of a sudden. He's just not good, So it was just disappointing, I guess, even though there's not a lot of expectation from the Vikings. Their defense, even though the Packers scored 37, Vikings defense played pretty well for the first half of this game, just put in a tough situation. Aaron Rodgers making some perfect throws. Again, the Vikings I thought were pretty tight in coverage, especially early in this game. Just some perfect balls, perfect throws. A.J. Dillon was running well. Devontae Adams clutch. It's just the same old stuff. Packers are very good football team. They'll be contending for the Super Bowl. They got that 1 seed locked up. I would imagine they sit guys against the Lions next week. That might be a tough one to pick. Who do I pick in that game? It doesn't really matter though. So the Packers close it out. Vikings, they're done. They're out of here. They choked about 7 games. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit. But they could have been a lot better, but they blew it. They just blew it. So maybe time to clean house there. We'll see if they actually do it though. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for the Week 17 recap. One more big week here. Playoffs on the line. Cannot wait. We have our picks this week. We have our playoff content next week. Cannot wait for that. A little bit of different type of stuff. Cannot wait to change it up here. Excited for those big games. Hopefully you join us for all that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Link down below. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.